So Claude Skills has just come out and it's absolutely mind-blowing what these things can do. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to 10x your output by developing skills, what the difference between skills and projects are, and ultimately how to improve your skills via various things I'm going to be showing you. Now, the most important thing is to realize what an actual skill is. Now, through Claude, Anthropic refers to them as basically a package of instructions, metadata, and optional resources. And now there's levels to basically a skill, which I'm going to get to in a sec here. But really, all a skill is essentially it's a markdown format. That's all it is. And I'm going to show you what that looks like if you're not familiar with MD formatting. But really, markdown formatting, super simple, and the AI can do it for you. So if you don't know where to start, I'm going to show you some cool use cases that will help you basically streamline making skills yourself. But really all it is, essentially, it's an SOP. Now, if you're a business owner or you work with someone, usually people have SOPs. So the way I want you to think about skills is really it's onboarding a new employee, or it's just helping a unexperienced employee navigate work. And skills is just a specific task. So just like an SOP is for a specific task, that's all a skill is. So if you're making, let's say, PowerPoints, and you have a specific SOP of a specific taste to how you want that to look, that's what skills can do for you. So these are the three types of skill content. Now, to start kind of at the beginner-friendly level, all it is, it's really just metadata. So as you start, or as you actually upload a skill, as you create a skill, all it really is it's just instructions. So we can have here, so we have the name, you create the name, I'm going to show you how to do this, and then basically just the description. So that's kind of level one, right? Level two is actually instructions, and it's loaded when triggered, which is phenomenal, actually saves on some tokens. And this is kind of when we get into the markdown formatting. So the main body of the skill, markdown, contains procedural knowledge, workflows, best practices, and guidance. So this is basically when it's a full-fledged SOP that you're going to give your employee, aka Claude, to basically produce a task. All right, and that's kind of how it looks. And again, if you don't know markdown formatting, that's totally fine. You can actually prompt the AI. AI is, all LLMs are very proficient in markdown formatting. You can actually get it to write it out for you. So when you request something that matches a skill description, Claude reads basically the format, and it basically produces what you have in that document, in that SOP, in that formatting. Okay, and then lastly, level three is kind of when you provide it with resources and code. So we have instructions, code, resources, and then the cool thing is skills can actually bundle additional materials. So one of the major things skills is solving for is basically consistency across the LLM, right? That's the biggest thing, because I can prompt it. I can give it one prompt. You can give it the same prompt, and we're gonna still have difference within the output. And so really what they're solving for is consistency across, which is super important, because if we're working on a project together, we need consistency across what you're developing and what I'm developing to really have that cohesion. And so that's really what it does. And one way to get very consistent is obviously with level three. It's by providing it with the references, right? So we can have detailed API references, and then we can even have scripts, which is super important as well. We can give it some forms just to guide it and to give it context, but the appropriate context. So the last thing you want to do, and you have to think of it through basically, again, you're hiring a new employee with no experience. All you're going to give them is proper context, but you're not going to give them everything, because if you give them everything, well, they're not going to know where to go. So you want to give them, examples, resources, prior examples, scripts, like all this stuff, and that's what level three is. Okay. So we have instructions, code, resources, this. And then obviously we can look into how many tokens. So it's about 100 tokens per skill when it's just at level one, so forth and so forth. So now that you kind of understand what skills are, how do we actually go about deploying or creating our skills? So all I want you to do is come to Claude, whether that is the browser or even just desktop. All I'm going to have you do is come down to settings over here, and you're going to go to settings, and you're going to go to capabilities down towards the end here. All I'm gonna have you do is you're gonna toggle on code execution and file creation. Now, this was automatically on for me. It could be for you. If not, just toggle on code execution and file creation. It's gonna be super, super helpful, and you kind of need that. So as we come here, we have our skills. Now, just so you are aware, Anthropic actually created kind of a universal skill set across. So everyone has the same skills at the moment. There is actually, I believe, a depository for skills, and you have to think of it from I guess a use case. You could potentially sell your skills just like you do currently in the marketplace, right? If you are a great advertiser, you are selling your skill set of becoming an advertiser and helping out or providing value in the marketplace. So theoretically, you can actually sell these skills. Eventually, there might become a marketplace for skills that you can sell. But in the meantime, Anthropic just created a few skills here. What you also have to toggle on is skill creator. That's how we're actually going to get Claude to create the skill for us. So toggle this on. And really all I would say is potentially just toggle one at a time and give it a try. Toggle this, and we can actually create our own, which we're going to do here in a sec. All I'm going to do is press these three dots, and I'm going to try it in the chat. Okay, that's how I know we're going to do something. So, hey Claude, I just added the brand guidelines skill. Can you make something amazing with it? And let's see what it does. Now, it's going to reference, obviously, which it's going to show. If you have a tough time having it reference the proper skill, now, I mean, as we move forward in the future, LLMs are going to get better with memory and really context. But for instance, right now, if you have issues it referencing the right skill, you should potentially have not have a few prompts, but ping pong back and forth with the chat. So it actually gets context of what you're using things for. And also you can actually just call it out via title. It's going to create its thing here. Perfect. I can have access to code on this side here. I can improve the code. I can copy it. I can share it across team members. But look, so this is pretty cool. This is functional. Again, is it 10 out of 10? No, but this is the future. Having everything under one hood where I can work. Now you get the sense of it. Skills are just tasks. I just want to briefly mention before creating our own skill, I want to briefly mention what is the difference between skills and projects. Skills are great for tasks. What are some daily tasks you do? Maybe it's email. Maybe it is creating presentations. Maybe it's anything that's like mundane, anything that it's repetitive. That's what your skill is. So your skill is basically automating or augmenting tasks you do on a daily basis. If it's sending out emails, you can augment that. If it is, again, creating pitch decks, if it's creating reports, you can augment that because that's pretty much a task. Now, the difference between that and your project is that projects, I can actually use skills within my projects, but what I'm really doing is that with the projects are great with context and having a ton of documentation. So if I, for instance, if I have a new client and we are, providing, let's just do marketing for them. We're marketing for them. We're creating banners. We're doing X, Y, and Z. We have rollouts. We have campaigns going. It is vital that I have the proper documentation of, the brand guidelines of this, and this. That's kind of the umbrella. So that's kind of the macro of the project. Like there's going to be a ton of documentation, ton of notes, ton of this, and this. And that's what a project is very useful for, so that whenever I use or I'm in my project, it can reference those notes. Okay, very important. And when I have specific tasks, like, if I'm doing a pitch deck, I can then call upon my skill to create that pitch deck for me within the same project. Okay, so project's kind of the macro, and then the micro, doing the tasks, doing the mundane stuff, is kind of the skills. That's at least how I look at it. So with that being said, we're actually now going to create our own skill, and we're going to use AI to do it. Okay, so I'm a marketer, and I need a skill made for my marketing meta ads, Now, again, very, very poor prompting. Don't do this, but just for the sake of time, all I'm going to have it do is create a skill. So after a few minutes, we have a skill created. Now, this did take a little bit, I just paused the video there. But basically, let's just kind of go over it. So I said, I'm a marketer. I need help. Need help with the skill made for marketing meta ads. Now, again, do some, create a compelling prompt to get the best out of this. And then it basically just asks me some questions to further identify what the skill needs to be used for. I just said, fill it out as you see fit. And then it kind of did a process of building here. And then eventually we do have our skill. So excellent. Meta ads marketing skill has been successfully created. Here's what I've built for you. Kind of gives you basically the summary of what this thing entails, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Again, just from basically prompting, very, very weak prompting on my end. However, it generated a very compelling skill. So now that we actually have the markdown file, it gives us how to use it. So all we're gonna do is download here. So once we have that, we're then gonna go back to our settings. We are going to go down to capabilities, and we are actually going to add this in. All we're going to do is upload skill, this, and there you go. So meta ads marketing is what it's titled. Again, if you're having troubles it referencing the proper skill, call it out by name. All I'm going to do is I'm going to press on the 3 here, try and chat. Now let's actually try to generate some marketing copy and some meta ads. There's store. And let's see what it gets. So it pulled from the skill and it generated our ad copy. Now again, what's the difference between this and just prompting the LLM? Because this has consistency. It's pulling from our SOP, it's pulling from our documents that we would give the skill. Now, obviously we just used Claude, again, for the sake of time, to help us create a pretty broad skill. But if you have SOPs on the way you write copy, if you have SOPs on the way you make landing pages, put that into the skill, and then you would give it context and you give it consistency across, the use of the skill. So again, it gives us some questions here. We can help elaborate. But we have problem focused, we have urgency and social proof, we have benefit based. And again, it's pulling from that skill. So instead of it just you relying on the model to do its thing, which again, they can hallucinate, it can be out of context, we're pulling from the skill. That is the difference. I need you to understand that. And again, I would probably do this within a project, because within that project, I would have the company, I would have the SOPs, I would have the guidelines, I'd have specific documentation potentially, again, if there's a sale, if there's specific things I need to advertise or put into the copy, I could have that project for that. And then the task of actually writing out the copy is using this skill. So as you can see, it saves a ton of time. And imagine, again, this is just like an employee you're training up, and over time it's going to understand the context and the memory. But imagine you had 5 of these, 5 specific skills. Maybe you did a creative skill, you did a marketing skill, you did a landing page skill. This can vastly improve your productivity. So basically what I'm trying to show you here is develop the skill. What's the difference between skill and projects? Now you know. And really, this thing can, you can basically have a few employees at the cost of $20 to $30, cost of lunch these days per month. So very, very helpful. If you liked it, comment and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.